Matthew, good morning and welcome to the John Fredericks Radio Show. You're on with Colonel Mike.
Good morning, Colonel Mike. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm looking over your. It's such a long resume of accomplishments, and right now you're doing the public affairs consulting, advising elected officials, corporate and political clients nationwide. Okay, and I understand that you are advising and consulting with the Smart Border Wall, and we just had Nelson Bolito on of the Border Commerce Security Council. So I'm really excited to have you come on. Thank you, by the way, for coming on the day after Christmas. I'm sure you had a Merry Christmas, and I hope you did, and it's not too early for you now. But tell me a little bit about this wall.
Well, just think of it as almost like a smartphone for the border. And this is not just for the border, but it can be utilized anywhere else for high security areas, including embassies. But this is a smart solution to what Border Patrol and the President kind of wants for the border. First thing, it's made out of glass. And everyone kind of looks at me when I first describe about it. And this is made out of pretty much ballistic glass. And so you could see on the other side. And well, that was one of the conditions that the President wanted, but also more importantly, what Border Patrol wants, because they want to make sure they can see across the other side just in case that there's someone trying to ambush them. So that's the first thing that's part of this smart wall technology. The second part, it uses forensic cameras, analytics to determine movement much further than the human eye can see, and this can happen during day or night. It can determine whether or not this is an individual trying to cross the border or a coyote. It also has drone technology in which the drones fly the length of the border at certain stages, so it can also supplement the camera technology that is being utilized. It has seismic technology, so it can determine if someone's trying to dig underneath the wall. All this stuff is to help and aid the Border Patrol agents. You know, human ingenuity, give them enough time, they can get over any wall. This thing stops them, alerts Border Patrol agents, and it's an overall solution to a problem that we have down south of the border.
Okay, so how is this better than, let's say, is this better than a wall design that we have now, like the steel slates design being looked at?
So, steel slats design, there's several issues, one of which it's just as strong as a concrete barrier, but it's about probably two-thirds the cost. And the reasons for that are it can be prefabricated at a factory and then can be dropped into location, meaning that we can have factories mass-producing this, brings down the cost, and then it doesn't take time to dig a ditch to basically create a foundation like you have to do for a concrete steel barrier. The current slat design that a lot of people are seeing on TV that was implemented a while ago close to San Diego and other places on the border wall, it's a good design because you could see through it, but you can actually hand stuff across. So it may slow down the progress of someone crossing the border, but it doesn't stop people from handing drugs across the border. And obviously that is another big issue.
So you did mention a couple of the features of the smart wall. No, you did mention already a couple of features. So how is this a smart wall then?
So basically it's a smart wall because you have cameras, you have drones already built into each unit.
Amazing.
So each unit is a separate individual unit, and it all interlocks into creating the smart wall technology. So like I said, it's using drones, cameras, seismic sensors, all of which, a lot of these borders are so long, obviously, that a Border Patrol agent has to be in charge of 200 miles of border, one agent. Well, how are they going to be able to do that effectively and get everywhere in a short period of time? One of which is the camera technology, which will determine someone trying to cross the border miles away from actually penetrating the border. So all of this is just using various technologies that is already out there that will effectively empower our Border Patrol agents by determining groups of individuals trying to sneak over the border miles away before they even get to the wall.
So this must be more costly than other designs, no?
No, actually it's not.
Really?
It's all common use technology that we currently utilize in our homes. When you think about the doorbell that has the camera phone that's linked to your Alexa or Google Home, you have the current technology with the glass. Glasses, when it's manufactured in bulk, it's cheaper than concrete. This is something that an individual from San Francisco actually came up with. This. It's a patent technology, and the biggest issue was I want smart, safe, reliable, and cost-effective for what we're paying for to help protect our border and our Border Patrol agents.
So how can we help promote this design?
Right now we're about launching our new website promoting this border wall design. People can follow me on Twitter. Matthew Del Carlo is my Twitter handle. We're going to be launching this new site hopefully within the week, and we're very excited about this. And we want to make sure that the public has as much input about this as possible, because we believe this is a superior design. It's modular. It could be dropped into different locations. It can go over swamps. It can go over rivers. It can go up high elevation because the way it is designed. And so we think this is a very cost-effective with high-technology solutions that's going to help, first off, stop people crossing the border, but also protecting our border agents.
Matthew, I'm just curious, where did you go so far? I mean, has anybody in the government seen this? Have you been to any agencies, any congressional, Senate offices?
Yeah, so we've been making some headway with the Department of Homeland Security. We also reached out to several members of Congress that represent border areas. I've reached out to a couple individuals in the U.S. Senate, too. So the preliminary response is it's favorable. Obviously, there's been some players that have been at this for a while. Obviously, there's been some manufacturers of border wall designs in San Diego. But there has been a big interest of having a smart wall design. And we believe this is the perfect design for that. Again, cost-effective, cheaper than the current designs that are out there, but with technology solutions that are going to empower our Border Patrol agents to do a much more effective job.
But you say this was glass. How could this be better? I mean, can't they just shoot a bullet through it?
No. I mean, it's just as a 50 caliber bullet will go through a concrete barrier. This ballistic glass, that will deflect it, but any smaller caliber, it's going to absorb it. It doesn't shatter. Just think of, for lack of a better term, ballistic glass that you see on the presidential limo. That's the type of technology that we're utilizing. If there's a lot of damage to it, we can actually swap out the glass and replace it. And it's just as cost-effective, whereas a concrete barrier, we're going to have to cut it out and replace it, which is going to take a lot of time and labor.
Can they get over with grappling? Could they get over the wall with grappling hooks?
No, we have anti-climb solutions for that.
Wow.
Whether we have steel cutouts that are basically anti-climbing spikes. It can be also allow certain types of gas solutions, whether it's pepper spray or other things that can be released if someone's really trying to climb over the wall that shouldn't be. We can actually put in piping that will go into the ground that's much more cost-effective to stop people from burrowing underneath the wall. And as, again, we have seismic sensors on there, so Border Patrol will be well aware, well in advance of the tunnel being dug underneath it, that there's someone trying to dig underneath the wall.
Well, this sounds really, really good, but if it's cost-effective and it could be a smart wall, do you think that the number that they're throwing out there, Matthew, $5 billion is too little, or is that the right amount? I don't know. What's the magic number? Anybody have a number?
Well, the magic number that's been floating around before was $25 billion. And even at the $25 billion cost, it didn't seem like the concrete barrier steel slat design was going to cover the whole length of the border. For that amount of money, we know that this technology could cover the whole length of the border and then some. The $5 billion cost, you're going to get much more border wall with this design versus the steel slat design. Mm-hmm. So that's why we really want to get this out there, because we can cover more border wall we can put more miles than the current existing technology.
I just had a guest on that said, I thought, from the numbers from the FAIR organization, it was something like 14 to 15 billion a year in housing, clothing, medical, and all this stuff for the illegals that come in annually. But he just said it's costing us $150 billion a year for the illegals coming over the border from Central America through Mexico. So I can't see Trump not winning this and not getting $50 billion. What do you say?
I mean, that would be fantastic because in addition to building the border wall, you need to build, and I'm sure the gentleman before the call mentioned, and I've been interacting with agents too, it's that you need to build facilities to detain individuals, because what these coyotes do is they test the border. Mm-hmm. They bring a small group of people over. The Border Patrol agent captures them, then has to bring them back to the home base to detain them. That home base could be 150 miles away. And then the coyote knows that Border Patrol agent is now bringing that small group to the home base and brings a larger group across the border. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem. Using this technology, we can build a facility to detain people that have crossed the border, so the Border Patrol agent is then free to then capture the next group of people.
So tell me, is this a Silicon...
Stuff like that we have to be smart about.
Is this a Silicon Valley company that came out with this smart border wall design?
It's based in San Francisco. Actually, it's a small business owner, a veteran. Safti First is the company name that came up with this design. He's partnered up with Silicon Valley technology companies out there with drone technology, special cameras that does analytical data to determine whether or not this is a coyote or an individual. Mm-hmm. So he really thought outside the box, listened to a lot of people, and basically has a lot of various solutions for the problems that Border Patrol agents bring up in casual conversation.
Wow, this really sounds good, Matthew. I'm telling you. Would you? We're going to have to go to a commercial break, but I'd like if you could stay on a couple extra minutes after the commercial break and news. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about this Western Alliance that's going on. Do you have some time?
Sure thing, Colonel.
Thank you so much.
Anything.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the John Fredericks Radio Network. Time now is 8:53. Matt, we're going to have a few seconds to chat, and then we'll go into the news, and then we'll bring you back. But just a little bit more on the Del Carlo Group and the Western Alliance. What's that all about?
Well, the Del Carlo Group is basically a government affairs, public affairs firm that I've been working with a lot of individuals on San Francisco on technology, trying to bridge the gap between technology firms and innovators and entrepreneurs and policymakers. And there's a lot of disconnects going on, and we're trying to bring better synergy. Basically, hey, these guys are coming up with great solutions, but, we need to make sure that these entrepreneurs are not being shackled down by over-aggressive regulations on getting their businesses up and running. The Western Caucus is an organization that represents basically Middle America and the West Coast and the Western states on mineral rights, agriculture, energy production, and it has a large group of members from our Congress, House, and Senate that care about, how do we empower Americans, entrepreneurs, to coming up with feeding us better, making sure that we're developing our land in a more cost-effective, environmentally friendly way, but at the same time empowering landowners to make sure that they can utilize the resources that are on their land.
Mm. And how is it working?
It's working pretty good, but, it's a constant fight. I mean, it's a nonpartisan organization, but I can tell you that they've made some major strides with the Department of Interior and the EPA with the current administration, where property owners and land right issues weren't being valued. In the prior administration, they are now. Small business owners that are doing oil exploration and gas it's this organization that was pivotal in creating America as the leading exporter of oil and natural gas. So, part of the reason why our economy is doing so well is because of organizations like the Western Caucus.
And who was in the Western Caucus? Who are the members?
I don't have them all by the top of my
okay, but just give me a couple.
On the top of my mind right now. But
okay.
It's actually one of the largest caucuses in our government. It's run by Paul Gosar, a congressman down in Arizona, and it's probably a very active group of individuals. And interesting enough, there's plenty of individuals, congressional and U.S. senators, that are members of this caucus that don't even live in the western states.
Really? But
they understand the importance of agriculture, mineral rights, and oil exploration.
Mineral rights are really important, I think, and I think the last administration was really pouncing on them.
We were losing opportunities about developing copper mines. We're losing opportunities to find rare earth minerals. Everyone gets this glazed look when you talk about stuff like that, but that's what you need, those technologies or those minerals to produce batteries.
Batteries, right.
So as many people that want a Tesla, well, you're not going to have a Tesla if you don't have the rare earth minerals to produce those batteries.
Where do we get rare earth minerals from now, Matthew?
It's actually unique and in various rare deposits. And so Afghanistan, believe it or not, has rare earth minerals. But there's only certain unique areas in our country, and some of those areas are national land. So we have to be environmentally conscious of not hurting the land a lot, but at the same time, we have to be mindful that we need these minerals in order to keep our economy going.
Okay, we're coming down to 1 minute. We're going to go to a news break, and then I'm going to keep you on. Just stay on the air. So, in other words, this is would you say these rare earth minerals are in the western part of the United States, or you can't say?
Well, predominantly, yes. They're in the western, Utah, Nevada areas. We're constantly looking for new opportunities. And so, but, under the prior administration, we couldn't even look around. It takes time. It's when people talk about oil technology and Obama was trying to take credit how we're having this independence now of oil because, we're now exporting all this oil and natural gas. Mm-hmm. It takes about 5 to 8 years to actually, from the point of exploring for natural gas and oil deposits to actually get it out to the consumer. So a lot of that was happening under George W. Bush.
Okay, hold that thought. Matthew, hold that thought. We'll be back after the news. Thank you for hanging on. Matthew Del Carlo of the Del Carlo Group, San Francisco, Washington. Matthew, let's continue our conversation on the Western Alliance, the Western Caucus, and if you have any more you want to say about the border wall. But I'm interested in these mineral rights and what you're doing to inform the government. So basically, you're public relations or government expert. Is that it?
I am, and on other issues too. Basically helping individuals out, especially in the technology innovation realm, mm-hmm. about understanding what's going on in government. And one of the things that, I'll touch back on the Western Caucus, but one thing that I think people don't understand is that there's great opportunities where we could make government smaller, more streamlined, and more accountable to the uses of technology. You saw what Uber and Lyft and did with the taxi unions, where San Francisco was overregulated, was not responsive to its citizens, and you couldn't get a taxi. So what happened? These guys came up with the idea of Lyft and Uber. You had overregulated market with taxation and hotel taxes in San Francisco. So individuals that came up with an idea called Airbnb. And so thinking about that, we're exploring opportunities where, you go to the DMV, and especially in California, and it also happens in Virginia and other states, where you're waiting long lines just to get simple paperwork done. Why can't we do this over the phone at the luxury of our home? In California, for example, mm-hmm. One of the third largest revenue generators over there, the state controller operates a website called Unclaimed Property, where there's at least $6 billion worth of unclaimed property because Aunt Sally forgot in her will to attach a savings account to the will. So that money then gets lost. The bank reports it to the state keeps it and makes money off of that. They purposely designed the website and the interface to be so bureaucratic and cumbersome that people don't look up their information. And so we were thinking about technology solutions and how to make that easier for people to look it up on the website and actually make government more accountable and more transparent. Now, you go to the Western Caucasus, there's still opportunities out there with the tech and innovation communities where we can empower farmers, get innovators to talk to farmers, talk about how can we make technology more beneficial so people can produce more food on a square acre using drones, using other devices. The same thing with mineral rights, where you can use drones to basically go into mines, look for new opportunities for minerals because they have all these sensors on it, certain areas where people can really go into. And so we're looking at other opportunities like that for down the road for the Western Caucasus. So it's very exciting right now, but we wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for the current administration.
So you're saying working with the Trump administration is, how many percent? 3,000, 5,000, 10,000% better?
I don't know if there's a percentage, but it's night and day.
It's night and day.
Again,
okay.
Kind of echoing back in the previous segment, talking about President Obama taking claim about, oil exploration and how America is now dominant in oil and gas. That didn't happen because of him. It happened even against him. It was because the Bush administration had started liberalizing and freeing up individuals. But all that exploration, all that development happened on private land. Now you have President Trump saying, hey, in an environmentally sound way, we're going to look at ANWR, huge oil reserves. You're also looking at other federal land that's now being opened up in a very environmentally conscious way, of course. But there's great opportunity here for jobs. I mean, these are not doctors' jobs. These are blue-collar jobs that pay well. And this is great opportunities for middle America and the Western states, and also people that just want to have a high-paying job.
Well, I saw recently they're doing this in Florida, and they're doing this in, believe it or not, some parts of the Midwest. They're doing farming now in old warehouses, like solar kind of green energy farming, where you can have your produce organic, and it doesn't even have to be outside, and it's almost like a warehouse. And I'm sure that's got a lot to do with technology too.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing that people are talking about is greenhouse technology has gotten so much better. You have great farming in the Midwest, but you're limited to a certain time, right? You have nine months, and then the winter comes, and then you stop.
Right.
So how do you make sure that you have fresh produce, vegetables, and fruit? The only way to do that is through greenhouse technology and energy, right? Because you need to have energy to make sure the greenhouse is warm and the heating and lighting. So here's some new technology solutions that's going to bring fresh produce. That's the whole reason why people in the old days canned, right? They canned their vegetables, they canned their fruit, because that's the only way they could have fruit during the winter season.
Did your grandmother can fruit and vegetables?
My Nana, my Italian side and my Greek side did the same thing, my Yaya and Papu. So, yeah, everyone canned, even in San Francisco.
And, well, listen, I know lots of families, whether they're Italian or Greek, just as even up to the 60s and 70s, they were still canning. The older generation, they were canning. And the people in America, they were canning stuff, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so on and so forth. Matthew, what else would you like to say before we just end the conversation? This is really interesting. I'd like to have you back on another time, and I'll pass your information on to John to bring you on until the next time I'm back. But in closing, what do you say? Go ahead.
Colonel Mike, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it. I encourage people to check out the Western Caucasus.
Give us your information, your Twitter again, your Twitter handle and your website.
Sure. My Twitter handle is Matthew Del Carlo. It's 2 T's, and then it's phonetically spelled Del Carlo. And I encourage people to check out the Western Caucus. It's bipartisan, but predominantly Republican. And these are individuals that are basically, behind the scenes. It's not sexy, but this is what happens in order to get our economic machine going. If we don't have mineral exploration, we don't have oil and gas exploration, we don't empower our farmers, our economic machine seizes up. And so the representatives that are part of this caucus under Paul Gosar are doing a phenomenal job of keeping our country going, and I encourage everyone to check that out and support them.
Well, I'd like to keep in touch with you on both issues, the Western Caucus and, again, the Smart Wall, which sounds really, really great, innovative. And we'll bring you back again in the near future, coming right after next year.
Colonel Mike, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Have a Happy New Year, sir.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Buon anno.
All righty.